Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to Valorant News and plenty to dive into today after the Valorant Champions skins made a fair bit of money for these teams. What exactly is the split been between the organizations and the players themselves, but also TenZ not happy at all about the way the VCT format is running this year. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy the video. Subscribe if you are new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much also for 10,000 subscribers I believe we just hit yesterday. So honestly, like great milestone. 5 digits, just love to see it. The first of many, I'm sure, of this channel over the coming months. Firstly, this from Fnatic, they're bringing a substitute into the team. Makes sense, I guess, because Dephh right now, I believe, is still based out of Russia. That, of course, is going to be a difficult time for him. I believe that Autumn, this guy they're bringing along, is pretty good on the Yoru, some people were discussing, so maybe that's a possibility, right? Because who knows how this meta is going to go. They are going to, I believe, not for this weekend of matches, coming today, tomorrow, and Sunday, but for next week's of matches, definitely in North America, because, of course, in Europe right now, we're not even sure when these matches are going to take place, but in North America from next weekends, they are going to play on the new patch update with all the changes to the controllers and all the changes to Yoru and all this type of stuff as well with Icebox and stuff like that. So exciting stuff. I thought honestly they might just change it into playoffs, but I guess they wanted to give these teams 1 week to give it a go, and maybe that will actually help the Fnatic guys if they need to bring in a player like this from the bench. This also for Mako, just to mention, because I thought I felt kind of bad for him really. Like he'd moved back to Europe right after, well, much sooner than a lot of people expected after joining 100 Thieves, and yeah, hey, enough of right, please move my cat back to EU. I just want to play some ranked, but yeah, not working out for him seemingly so far. This then from Upcomer. So as you guys well know, the Champions bundle for Champions last year, they sold this kind of skin pack, the Vandal, the knife, and $18.7 million in revenue was generated as a result. So this was split 50-50 between Riot and all the Champions competitors, and that means that every single team took $585,000 in just skin money from this. Now, of course, the teams kind of get to say, at least in discussion with the players, what happens to that money, right? The 585k, how does it get split? Is it split evenly between the players? Like, how exactly does it work? Now, I've come and do an article explaining what they have heard for some of these teams. Now, well, some people have come out and said this actually is not true at all, or a lot of this information is misleading. We'll have a look at that here in a second. I believe that's what some people said about Ascend, but quite interesting, right? So Ascend reckons, at least in the European side, like a lot of these teams, Ascend taking potentially 75% of the split. I'm pretty sure this was disputed, but you know, Fnatic taking 80% of that 600k, and the players only getting 20% to split between them. So it's quite interesting. I feel like what Optic and Sentinels going to do here is maybe more reasonable, like you know, just kind of taking the 50-50. At the end of the day, these organizations have to actually make some money, because it's tough enough to make money in esports as it is, especially as one of these organizations. So when you do get a revenue line like this, you do have to kind of jump on it, but at the same time, like, you know, the players were there for Champions, makes sense to reward them as well to some degree. I don't really mind the 50-50, and in North America seem to be a lot more generous to their players than some of the European teams. Cloud9, for example, taking only 25% and giving the rest all the way to their players. Latin America, lots of differences here, and then Asia Pacific, people were saying that X10 Crit just took the entirety of the prize money, right, or the entirety of that 600k, didn't give their players a penny. This was then disputed that some of these might not fully be the case, and maybe some more updates to this still to come over the coming days, but as Pura says, according to an X10 representative and seen in the post link below, X10 and the team agreed that players would receive 10% of the Champions skins rather than 0% as previously reported. So okay, I mean, look, it's not all that much of a difference. I guess it's something. Still, 10% of 600k is still like 60k between the players. They do still take home a reasonable chunk of change, I suppose, but oh well, it's nowhere near as much as some of these other teams were still providing their players as a result. So definitely lots of incentives from all fronts to get through to Champions if you're making money like this. But I think it's quite interesting really that some of the players, I imagine, or some of the organizations, like, hang on a second, Cloud9 got 75% of that split, we only got 10%. What's going on here? Like, maybe we should have a word with our organization next time around to make sure this is fair across the board. And I like when stuff like this becomes public, because next year the players will have more leverage, right, to say, well, hang on a second, last year it was 50-50 for a lot of the North American teams, why can't we get the same, or something along those lines. This is also from Derek real quick. Lots to talk about Brim lately, the fact that well, he's become pretty good and pretty better over this last patch update, it seems. We'll see what happens when this does initially come in for week 5. But also talk about the stim beacon, right, the fact that it's rather good right now, the speed boost very solid, like well, Derek reckons from the Rise Nation side, okay, we all had our fun, let's give Brim either 1 stim max, that's the thing, when he has the 2 stims, like especially if you're rotating between sites, the 15% speed boost, that's pretty handy, and he reckons, okay, or change the speed boost to max just 5%, or get rid of the boost entirely, thank you very much, Riot. So, well, he reckons there's a lot of things that are too strong right now with the stim beacon, either the speed boost is too much, the fact that he still gets 2 of them is quite a lot, or just get rid of the boost entirely. We'll see what happens on that front, but clearly, well, TenZ was having a good time with it yesterday, but he wasn't necessarily having a good time with the current VCT format that we have here for 2022. So right now, the way it works, we're currently in the midst of the North American and the European Challenger qualifiers for the playoffs. Now, well, if you're a North American team in your group of 6, you have to get top 4 to make it through to the playoffs, but every single week you play one game. That's the thing, every weekend you play one match, and that's it. Well, that's it for the week, you go on to the next game as well. Now, in fairness, I guess in traditional sports, that's kind of how it's been, but in esports, you don't necessarily have to just play one game on a weekend, because there isn't the kind of rest and recovery time like there is in normal sports, which I think gives esports something of an advantage. And generally, I've kind of preferred the esports events I've seen in the past, where there's kind of a lot of action crammed into a few days, and then a bit of a time off, and then we go again. What this means is every weekend, yes, there is some Valorant to watch, but the problem is, I think that some people say, okay, the break between the games is slightly too much, right? Okay, it's only Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's quite a few days off before the games start again, especially if you're just a fan of one particular team in the league, they only play once per week. You have to wait a very long time to see them play again, and then even when they do, they might not even make it to the major event, at which point there might not be too many matches for them to play regardless. So TenZ reckons, like, he doesn't reckon this format's particularly good, he reckons it creates way too much of a break between the games, and it doesn't actually make the games better anyway. It'd be more interesting if they were more condensed.
Feels good. I like playing matches. I personally, I think the current format is really poo. I'd much rather have like a jam-packed like week or two rather than like waiting a week in between every group stage match. I feel like it's just so much time wasted, and sure, it gives more like time for teams to prepare more, but I mean at the end of the day, it's kind of like the same look. I don't think time will like increase the quality of matches or anything.
I'm not sure you want me to do this.
Nading.
So I do wonder what TenZ's optimal format would be right here. Would he condense these 5 matches they play into like, a single week, or a single week of action, or into a couple of weeks of action, and just bring more into the season? Because that's kind of what I think they should do in theory, is they should condense some of this and just add more tournaments. Like, I don't think there's enough tournaments this year. Like, we've got, okay, there's some playoffs that they have locally, then there's the Masters event, there's only 2 Masters events, then Champions. Like, there really isn't all that much, to be honest. They could easily fit in, if they really wanted to, another Masters event, like another stage of action, if they wanted to, right? And condense these 5 games down into 2 or 3 weeks, and then kind of, just say down into 2 weeks, have a week off, do the playoffs in all the regions, then have the Masters, right, and add in a whole nother section. Maybe that's what they shall do next year. Now, the other side of this is that some people have suggested that actually having this 5-week format means that the meta is much more interesting, because between weeks, teams have a chance to, kind of experiment, right, see what they want to use, kind of, anti-strat and prepare for other compositions that other teams have been using over the previous weeks. So it does create a more interesting meta, I think, over the weeks, because teams have, chance to prepare and chance to change. Whereas if it was just all condensed into one weekends, then you pretty much see no changes in the meta over the course of it. But of course, speaking of meta changes, there will be a quite significant one when week 5 comes into play. So yes, instead of just changing on the newer patch into the playoffs and Masters, which in fairness might well be, it means that the only competitive play that the pros get to play on for, with this new patch update, which obviously is a pretty major one, is going to be in really important events. So I think it makes sense that they're saying, okay, instead of week 4, this coming weekend, these 3 matches this weekend, or the 3 days of matches over the coming 3 days are going to be played on the old patch update, but from week 5, the final round of matches, they are going to be played on the new one. Of course, for a lot of teams, those matches are going to be very critical in getting good seeding. So, adapting to this new patch quickly is going to be crucial for some of these rosters. In Europe as well, just to mention real quick, because we don't still know what's going on right now with the EMEA Challengers matches. Like, they were, of course, meant to be on today. They're not going to resume today. They're trying to get some on this weekend, but, it's a bit of a mess right there because they're falling behind quite significantly. But, of course, for understandable reasons that are going on outside of their control. This also, from 100 Thieves Esports, thought it was kind of interesting just to mention real quick. The operator, 4,500. Like, what do you guys think about this? If they reduced it from 4,700 down to 4,500, like, it would make it a fair bit more affordable in certain situations. I think at the professional level, this probably would just be a little bit too strong. Even Ethan says in the reply, like, no, please don't do this. But, very strong weapon already. Imagine if you're a chamber, you just get 2 of these things out, right? You get your ultimate as well, and you get the operator for 4,500. Like, that would make it a lot more usable. At the same time, I feel like right now it's kind of well balanced. I don't know what you guys think in the comment section below. And just before we finish out the video, this one Will Mind I thought was pretty cool. The top 15 rated players so far throughout all regions as of today during their respective regions closed qualifier. So Chronicle, Buzz, Trent up here at a 1.41. So Chronicle, of course, from the European side, Buzz in the Japanese region. Cool to see really how these how these players are faring across all regions. The variation in the agents as well that you see. Chronicle on the Brimstone, Trent, of course, here on the Sova. We have some Jet players, of course, no doubt about it. Heat, of course, here at the 1.31 as as well. Definitely some very solid players and talented players on this list. Zephyr and Valen also featuring as well from the North American side. But yeah, these guys should be pretty set on to qualify through to the playoffs. One team, of course, that is far from confirmed, though, is 100 Thieves and Asuna, with well, this nice little clip here on Bind to finish out the video. But yeah, these guys have a long task ahead of them. They have to play Xset over the coming days. They have to win that series. Then they pretty much have to beat Evil Geniuses as well. Then they still can qualify out. But well, it is going to be far from easy for them to accomplish that feat. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hitting a like button tells the YouTube god this is a good video. I'd just like you should see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Valorant community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.
Raise Hiko.
We are up long.
Droning.
We're droning.
One's in.
Spike down B. One enemy remaining.
Oh yeah, we're back, baby! We're back!